Good day. This is the Green Mage. I speak simply and accessibly about the complex and sometimes incomprehensible. Today we will talk about the basic esoteric foundations and find out what shapes us into who we are, what influences us, and what we need to understand and take into account on the path to becoming the best version of ourselves. Everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Albert Einstein. Everything is energy, and this was well understood by various civilizations thousands of years ago, much more so than everything material around us. Energy is not only the theory of particle-wave duality, but also external flows, the energy of the Creator, the Earth, and so on. Everything is energy. Energy is everything at once. One way or another, our life, our very existence, should fundamentally be considered from the perspective of energy. The general term energy should be viewed from the perspective of its several components. Energies. Earth energy, Kundalini. The energy coming from the earth, the ascending flow. Eastern teachings, both Indian and Chinese, Kundalini Yoga and Qigong, teach how to work with earth energy, to awaken it in the body or to work with the energies of both the body and the earth simultaneously. Nowadays, there are even videos on social media where people standing barefoot on the ground measure radiation or energy coming from the earth. The more you walk barefoot on the earth, grass, or sand, the more time in a year you spend touching the primal surface of the earth with your bare feet, the stronger, healthier, and more sensitive you become. Energies. Cosmic energy. The descending flow of energy. Divine. We will discuss divine energy separately later. Clan energy. The influence of the clan line and clan system is discussed in detail in another video. Following the link in the upper right corner or in the description and watching a video about the clan and the clan system. To understand how energy works in a person, I suggest comparing them to a car. Not a primitive old car, but a modern gasoline or diesel model, which, in addition to basic components like the body, engine, wheels, and transmission, also has modern systems, traction control, a complex fuel injection system, cruise control, and even autopilot. The first thing you need to do for the car to move is to fill it with fuel, gasoline. First, you need fuel. Fuel is the main driving element. The second most important driving element is oxygen, that is, air, which is necessary for the combustion of fuel. But still, even if you have both fuel and air, a third component is necessary, a spark. A flash, an explosion that gives an impulse, sets the process in motion from a dead point and starts the car. At the intersection of these three energies, an impulse arises that makes the pistons move in the engine, transfers energy to the chassis and wheels, and allows the car to begin moving. This metaphorical description of the three energies, the merging of fuel, air, and spark, characterizes and accurately describes the process of merging energies and many processes on our planet and in human life. Let's imagine that fuel is the lower energy channels. Lower energy channels, ascending flow. The science of bioenergetics. Earth energy, Kundalini. Kundalini Yoga. Qigong. The earth gives each of us a huge amount of energy. In other words, we are provided with fuel a priori thanks to the earth. We just need to clear and free the channels through which we will receive this fuel. Otherwise, the car's engine will run intermittently or not move at all. The second energy is the energy of air descending flow. Upper energy channels, cosmoenergetics, ancient religions, the Creator's energy, the energy of higher egregores, astrology. If there is no air, or if the air quality is poor, our imaginary car also runs erratically and cannot drive properly. Without cleansing and proper functioning of the upper channels, it is difficult or sometimes impossible for a person to become the best version of themselves. Try breathing without air. Without air, the best events simply will not come into your life. The third energy, the spark, the igniting energy, clan energy, genealogy. The spark is motivation. It is life goals. The initial spark is given to us by our parents and our clan. If one of the channels works intermittently or incorrectly, the car does not drive as intended by its designer. That means a person's life does not go as intended by the Creator. This is the foundation, the base. But in addition to this foundation or base, our car has many other components and systems that affect it. That is, they affect how we live and how our life unfolds. The gearbox, transmission, wheels, braking system, air conditioning, and heating systems. All of these to some extent influence the operation of the car. The main reasons why a car doesn't move or doesn't work and drive as we want or as its designer intended, that is, why a person's life doesn't go as it should, are as follows. That is why we have failures, illnesses, inability to achieve goals, poverty, scandals, lack of a peaceful life, uncontrollable behavior, and much more. Apart from fuel, air, and spark, there are 11 more factors that influence our lives. Beliefs, blocks, emotional clamps, thought forms, contracts, vows, renunciations, entities, past lives, clan tasks, life script, magic, partner, energetic hygiene. Let's talk in more detail about each of these points. Beliefs, blocks, prism of perception, mental picture of the world. These are the very key phrases and expressions a person operates with in this life, the so-called rose-colored glasses, or, on the contrary, negative filters. A pregnant mother and her child essentially share the same blood, the same energy, and are one whole. Everything the mother says and feels is transmitted to the child at that very moment, willingly or unwillingly. The mother's prism of perception is automatically passed down to the child. So, if in childhood a person is told that it's impossible to earn big money honestly, and that money in general comes only through hard work, this will inevitably affect their psyche and may become their prism of perception. A lie becomes like the truth. Beliefs, blocks, features, how a person thinks, how a person sees, how a person speaks, and how a person acts. If two biological brothers, one of whom has in his prism of perception the idea that money should come only through hard work, come to the same job in the same position, they will work completely differently. Each will have different results, and they will be evaluated and treated absolutely differently. Who do you think will achieve more at this job? Any phrase said in childhood leaves an imprint on a person for their entire life. It becomes a belief, even in the form of a proverb. The child doesn't understand this yet. The prism of perception is only being formed, but it will start to bear fruit in high school years. Perceptual filtering literally breaks and distorts a child's perception of the world, whether the child is aware of it or not. Any belief or program that is installed in the human system will be carried out. The second parameter that influences us is emotions. Emotions, emotional clamps, unprocessed emotions. For example, in childhood, parents tell a child, "Don't cry," but the child wants to cry because what happened matters to them. If an emotion isn't lived through, so to speak, encapsulated, then that frozen, unprocessed emotion can turn into a block and remain in the astral, emotional body. I talk about the 7 subtle bodies of the human body in more detail in another video. Follow the link in the upper right corner or in the description below the video. From the astral body, this block moves into the etheric body, and then it shows up in the physical body and health problems arise. Physical manifestations of emotional blocks: muscle pain, joint pain, limited joint mobility, poor circulation, inflammation. A person wants to get rid of unprocessed emotions and goes for a massage. The massage therapist works on the physical body and the emotional clamp goes away on the physical level, but the unprocessed emotion remains in the astral body. When the person ends up in a situation where they don't express or live through that same emotion, the clamp moves back into the physical body again, and that becomes a vicious circle. You need to tell the child, "I understand you." Cry, let it out, live through this emotion, and then go play again. It's also necessary to be able to feel joy fully, just as it is to feel sadness if the situation calls for it. In that case, the astral body has lived through the emotion and it has passed. Now there are no physical clamps. You must not forbid the expression of emotions, even joyful ones, like, "Why are you laughing so loudly? Don't embarrass me." That's not acceptable. Emotions must be lived through and truly felt. A child starts out without fixed beliefs, and it's the parents who lay down the belief of whether to show emotions or not. Yet all of us are born to express emotions. The third parameter that influences our lives is thought forms. Thought forms: spatial larvae, inner larvae. Larvae are astral parasites that feed on their host bioenergy. Thought forms are our own thoughts that we constantly think over. This so-called mental chewing gum that a person keeps chewing eventually turns them into a conveyor belt of uncontrolled thoughts. A thought form is a lower-order energetic entity. There are external larvae that inhabit indoor spaces, the street, or specific locations. We'll talk about them in more detail in the video about entities. And inner larvae, thought forms that live inside a person, feeding on energy from doubts, torment, and the constant chewing of mental gum. Thought forms: features: mental chewing gum, repetitive thoughts, vivid emotions that are weakly controlled, the presence of an object, subject, or event that the emotion is directed at is required. About spatial larvae. For example, when we are at work, most of the time we think about work-related issues. We turn these thoughts into thought forms, and they remain hanging in that workspace. Space absorbs our thoughts and keeps them, whether we want it or not. When we come home and sit down on the couch where we usually relax, as a rule, we can't immediately switch off from work thoughts, and typically for another 20 to 40 minutes we're still, one way or another, immersed in work matters. And we also leave these work thought forms at home, and they start creeping into our head again. We catch ourselves thinking, I'm at home, I came to rest, but it's no longer us. It's the spatial larvae making us think about work issues, forcing us to produce emotion to feed them. But it should be like this. At work, thoughts about work. At home, thoughts about family. In places where we eat, thoughts about food. Otherwise, all your energy will be going to spatial larvae. The best and very simple way to get rid of them is to light a fire. Notice that when you are sitting by a campfire and watching the flames, the fire captivates you, distracts you, and relaxes you. The easiest conversations, the ones that give you rest and replenish you, always happen around a campfire. Of course, it isn't always possible to build a fire, so at home you can use ordinary candles, ideally a candle holder with 3 candles. That is why, intuitively, people light candles on a romantic date. The date flows easily because both partners are cleansed of thought forms. Fire clears the space of the old and makes it possible to begin something new. The main task of inner larvae is to draw us into emotions so that we don't control those emotions and they arise on their own. We'll talk about inner larvae in more detail in the video about entities. Stay tuned. For now, I'll say just one thing. Awareness is important. When you experience a negative emotion, ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now? Whose thought and emotion is this? Where will this thought and emotion lead me? If you don't like the answers to these questions, say, I refuse to feed you and to experience these thoughts and emotions. Go away. Then shift your attention to the thoughts and emotions you do want. And I wish you to become the author of your own life. The 4th parameter influencing a person. Contracts. A contract is a fixed agreement, a deal between a person and an entity, where the entity undertakes to fulfill the terms of the contract, and in return the person pays it with emotions. An entity is a being just like a human, only without a physical body. In the video, you have 7 bodies. You can learn more about human bodies. The link is in the video description. The definition and essence of a contract are very well revealed in the animated film Soul, where the main character says a line along the lines of, he is ready to give his life to perform on the same stage with a famous jazz singer. By saying that he was ready to give his life in order to perform on the same stage with the singer, the hero of the animated film made an offer to the entities around him to enter into a contract. They accepted the terms of the deal, concluded an invisible document, and helped create a chain of events in which, at a rehearsal on a small platform, the hero and the singer ended up together and sang. The minimum terms of the contract were fulfilled, and the entities demanded their reward. An accident occurred, and the hero died. Even though the contract, the document, is concluded on the astral plane, the result is physical death. Remember, any phrase said in a highly emotional state is an offer to entities to enter into a contract. When a person says, no way, an entity takes that contract into work, and the entity's main task is to ensure that by the end of the job, the deal, the person ends up with nothing, and on top of that, pays with their emotions. If someone says, I only get to rest when I'm sick, the entity will do everything so that during your long-awaited annual vacation you get sick, and as soon as you return from your vacation or trip, you recover. Anger, irritation, aggression. These are the emotions that will serve as payment for this contract. Contracts. Features. Affects events around a person or the person themselves. Manifestation of emotions. The presence of an object, subject, or event that the emotion is directed at is required. It is very important to watch all the phrases we say out loud, especially when we are emotional. Remember not only to say the right thing in the right place, but far more difficult still, to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. Benjamin Franklin. The second form of a contract is called a renunciation. Renunciation is a form of contract in which the wording must include a negation such as never or always not. A renunciation always tends to be broken immediately, as soon as it becomes possible. So instead of saying that you will never drink alcohol or smoke again, it is more productive to say, "Today I am sober." The third form of a contract is a vow. A vow is a form of contract in which the wording uses time intervals such as always or constantly, as well as a promise like "I will." A vow, unlike a renunciation, is positive and is supported by bright higher powers. Unlike a renunciation, a vow is supported by light entities, and by making vows you create invisible but powerful allies for yourself. One coach, almost 30 years ago, told his sons and other students, "Every day we will live a sportsman's life until we reach the very top." That coach's name was Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, and his son is Khabib Nurmagomedov. We will talk in more detail about contracts, renunciations, and vows in a separate video. The fifth item on our list is entities. Entities. Uncontrolled behavior, aggression, apathy, malice, hatred, a desire for death, addictions, alcohol, and other drugs. An entity is a being just like a human, but without a physical body. The darker the entity, the darker the emotions it feeds on, and vice versa. An entity cannot simply attach itself to a person for no reason. This requires permission and a weakened human aura. Entities. Features. Uncontrollable emotions and behavior. Cyclicality, with calm phases lasting 2 to 3 days. Memory loss after the events. We will talk about entities in more detail in a separate lecture. The sixth item on our list is past lives. Past lives. What was not resolved in a past life, the soul may take up and work on in the current one. Imagine that our life is one day in the life of the soul. For example, imagine that today you developed a toothache, but you decided to just take a painkiller because you can't schedule a dentist appointment today. The pain went away today, but it will return after some time, and on one of the following days you will have to book and attend an appointment. It's the same with the soul's tasks from past lives. The soul lives through a huge number of incarnations and can easily carry unresolved tasks over from previous incarnations. Today, the physical body may not even understand that something is wrong, but it will be forced to resolve one or several tasks from past incarnations. Past lives. Features. Unexplained events or illnesses that began at a certain age. Difficult relationships with a particular person. Working with specialists does not solve the problem. The seventh item on our list is clan line tasks. The clan provides a person with beliefs and attitudes, tasks, contracts, entities, programs, and life scripts. Before incarnation, based on the tasks of closing clusters of experience for this specific embodiment, the soul chooses a training lane or a gym, so to speak, a testing ground. And this testing ground is the person's family, in a broader sense, their clan. More details are provided in a separate lecture about the clan, following the link in the description and watching a video about the clan and the clan system. The 8th item on our list. Life script. Our entire life is written in advance before incarnation. A person will inevitably live through all the necessary key events and will also meet along their life path those people with whose souls they made agreements in advance. Everything may be fated, but not everything is set in stone. Only the law of will can bend events slightly and change the outcome. For more on the universal laws, see another video, following the link on the right corner or in the description and watching a video about the 8 universal laws. Whether we want it or not, we will have to face certain toxic or, on the contrary, pleasant people, fall ill with or recover from some disease, and visit certain places. This cannot be changed. The only thing you can change or adapt is your attitude toward what is happening and your inner state. We will engage in self-improvement, visit specialists, change our beliefs, maybe suffer from addictions for some time, etc. You will experience in full all the pain intended for your inner transformation, and the wisest decision is to treat it calmly. The script is the main document according to which the soul lives. As a physical body, we may want consumer happiness. The mind may want joy, but the soul above all longs for development. Life script. Features. Unexplained events or illnesses that began at a certain age. Difficult relationships with a particular person. Working with specialists does not solve the problem. It is very similar to past life features, because the script in one way or another touches on past life events. The script is a continuation of a past life. The 9th factor influencing our life is magic. Magic. Love spells, separation spells, incantations, ritual magic, tethers, planted items, left hidden objects. Magic completely changes a person's reasoning, their behavior patterns, actions, and free will in general. It leads them away from their destiny and life mission. Magic. Features. Against a person's free will. Unexplained attraction to someone or something. Both the one who did it and the one it was done to suffer. Magic can be light or dark and can be used either for benefit or for harm. Even white magic done on another person without that person's own intention or consent can turn into dark magic. 10th factor. Partner. Husband or wife. Business partner. Partner in training or in any other hobby. A partner is someone you go through life with, making plans, getting through hard times, celebrating victories, and worrying failures. A business partner, for example, can also be your wife or a parent. A partner can be an extra pair of oars in your boat, or a heavy load, ballast. Risk, hardships, and big goals inspire one person, while they frighten another and make them retreat. A partner can be karmic, meant for you according to the script, so that together you overcome something. A training partner who is difficult to be with, and after parting with them you realized it was necessary so that you would grow, understand, and go through all the lessons, after which this partner will either change or fall away. Such a partner, or several, is often encountered by an ancient soul. This corresponds to the levels of spiritual development, the yellow level and above. You can learn more about the levels of spiritual development in another video, following the link on the right corner or in the description and watching a video about the 7 levels of spiritual development. A partner is not always only a plus or only a minus, and not always only happiness or only sorrow. Each of our partners is written into our incarnation script. The 11th parameter influencing a person's life is energy. Energy hygiene. Where we live, who we are, and where we work. What food we eat. What people we surround ourselves with. What animals live near us. What thoughts, words, and actions come from us. Where we live, there should be nature. It's good if flowers bloom, a quiet place with enough sunlight, surrounded by good neighbors. Then it's very hard to drop into low vibrations and aggression. Life flows correctly toward growth and strengthening. And vice versa, if people live near hospitals, a prison, an alcohol plant, high-voltage power lines, a railroad, a landfill, etc., it is very hard or practically impossible to reach high vibrations, love, gratitude, happiness. A person will get sick more often, be more irritable, and have a harder time achieving their goals. The same applies to the workplace and the environment at work. Eating processed convenience foods with a long shelf life, fast food, soda, and alcohol also makes one heavier, both physically and spiritually. What people do we surround ourselves with? Kind and supportive ones, or energy vampires who block our growth? And the animals around us also strongly influence our lives. Who will be happier in a future marriage? A woman with a dozen cats, or a woman with a dog? A cat is the energy of self-sufficiency when no one else is needed and you're fine on your own. A dog is the energy of unconditional love and loyalty. What we radiate is what we receive. This is the law of the mirror, one of the basic laws of the universe. Therefore, think and choose what words and actions you begin and end your day with. You can learn more about the laws of the universe in another video, following the link in the description and watching a video about the 8 universal laws. Rewatch this video from time to time and practice self-analysis in order to become the best version of yourself. All the best, and see you again.